In this video, we are going to be talking about the #1 subject everybody is talking about, and that is going to be Azuki, especially after the recent controversial AMA that just happened on Twitter. And after that, we're going to also be covering some up-and-coming projects you definitely don't want to miss. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you didn't know, at the time of this recording, about 12 hours ago, there was an AMA with Andrew Wang, which is a crypto NFT kind of influencer type of person. If you didn't know who he is, seems like a nice guy. And he also did an AMA with Zagabond. So Zagabond is going to be one of the co-founders of Azuki. Now, to get you caught up real quick, recently Zagabond put out an article where he said that he worked on 3 other projects prior to Azuki, and those projects kind of were abandoned, and he kind of just wanted to share why things turn out the way they did and how that relates to Azuki. When he put out that news, there was a lot of like FUD and like, oh my god, like Azuki is founded by a rug puller and things like that, where the team decided that it would be best for Zagabond to come on to a Twitter Spaces where someone like Andrew Wang, who can try to be as neutral as possible, just ask him some questions to get some clarity on what's going on. When this happened, you know, obviously the price of Azuki and the beans were going down because people weren't really sure what to expect. Me coming into the AMA, what I was thinking was going to happen was that there was going to be some great explanation to why these projects failed in the past and things like that, and they're going to move forward with Azuki. I thought they were just going to, boom, knock this out and just move forward. But the issue was that during the interview, I feel like a lot of things kind of came out that didn't really sound that good for the Azuki team. You know, shout out to Andrew Wang. I haven't met him in person, but I do believe he tried to ask tough questions to get the right information. But like he said before, his specialty is not to ask these hard questions. He's more like a positive kind of guy, so I can appreciate him like giving it a shot. But essentially what happened in the actual AMA, Andrew Wang, you know, he did ask these questions to understand, are these projects in the past rug pulls? Was your intention just to make a bunch of money and then move on to the next project and do it again and again and again? Zagabond tried to explain that there were justifications to what he did and that he delivered on everything he said he did without actually going too deep into what those expectations were, which I thought was confusing, right? You know, long story short, in the end, it just made Zagabond look like he wasn't empathetic to the situation, and it kind of made him look like a rugger in a sense, right? I'm not saying he is or isn't a rugger, but he made himself look like that to the community. A lot of people started selling their beans. A lot of people started selling their Azukis. So if you look at the price of Azuki, obviously a lot of people did start to sell, where the floor even touched 6.95 ETH. You know, it was like a 30 ETH floor not too long ago, and now it's like people are selling a lot. Beans kind of going down as well. And I would say the main challenge here, and I think why people lost a lot of confidence, especially after that AMA, was because of the way Zagabond kind of dodged certain questions and chose not to answer certain things strategically. It's pretty obvious. I'm just going to give you my personal take on the situation and how I see it and try to be as neutral as possible. So I think the main issue for me when I kind of listened to the interview was that the main thing Zagabond was saying is that, you know, he delivered on all his promises and that he did everything that he said he would do. There should be no problem with that, right? I think that's a little misleading because I feel that his intention for what he wanted the project to be wasn't clearly communicated to the holders, and I believe people who bought into the projects that he did in the past, they weren't in the know of what he was thinking. So there's a misalignment of expectations, and if there's a misalignment, usually it's the leader who has to take responsibility because they have to try extra hard to make sure everybody understands their vision. If they choose not to do that, then either they don't have the competency to do it, or they purposely choose not to do it. In the future, they could say, oh, I never promised you anything, right? You know, if we just kind of look at intentions, the founders of these projects in the past said like, hey, this is just an experiment. Don't expect to make any money. In fact, expect it to go to zero. All the money we make from this, we're just going to take it and we can choose to do whatever we want with it. We don't have to put it back into the community. And if this is a community run project, we can keep all the contracts. And if you want to buy it, cool, up to you. But if you don't want to buy it, it's totally fine. But we just want to make it clear of what our intentions are. And probably we're going to start another project after this, and I'm going to create a new pseudonym and pretend like I never did this first one. So if you want to buy it after that, great. If he kind of clearly stated what he was going to do and everyone was like, sure, I'm down for the gamble, that would have been okay in my eyes, right? But because that information was strategically left out or incompetently left out, it's one or the other, then it looks kind of weird to me. There might be a lot of Azuki people watching this, and then you might be like, oh my god, like Patrick's hating on Azuki, FUD. I get what you're saying. My role here, I'm not trying to FUD a project. There's really no gain for me to do that. I just kind of want to share with you my personal take on communications, what I personally think is clear communications and setting the right expectations, right? 4 hours ago from the time of this recording, seems like Zagabond apologized. And just to be clear, during that Twitter Spaces, he didn't apologize and he justified everything that he did and said it was okay, right? But he just like left the AMA like randomly sometime in that AMA, so that was kind of strange. But it seems like he's kind of backtracking, maybe because the backlash was so bad and maybe because a lot of people are selling their Azukis and their beans, he is kind of forced to play his hand and apologize in this situation. So in this situation, it seems like it's a pretty tough event for Azuki to be in right now, where a lot of people are losing confidence in the team, especially the leadership. And I feel like for NFTs, you really have to believe in the founding team to, you know, push this through and to actually make it something. And because of the Twitter Spaces AMA, because how everything was handled, and like because like a lot of the things they're saying is very inconsistent or information is like strategically hidden, a lot of people lose confidence. And I think that's what's happening now. Does that mean that Azuki is going to go to zero? Personally, I don't know, because like these projects can bounce back, right? Like sometimes people forget, and then a whole fresh wave of new eyeballs and new money comes into the space and they have no idea like this whole thing happened, right? It doesn't mean the project will die. Actually, you know, because they already have so much resources, they probably do have another shot at becoming something again. But I think for a lot of people, they did lose the trust and respect from the leadership team because of this situation. And I think that's fair, because trust and respect is something that should be earned, not given. And if you think about like, you know, in the past, like companies did a lot of weird stuff. Like for example, Coca-Cola used to put cocaine into their drinks to make people feel a certain way when they drink it, right? You know, a lot of companies have like weird dark histories in a sense, but are able to move past it, especially during, if like that time it was just a crazy time. So I mean, the market moves so fast. Will people remember this 6 months from now? I have no idea. But with all the information said, I think, you know, you can probably make your own educated decision on what you want to do with this information moving forward. And one thing I really learned in this space, you know, being in it for a little bit, there's no such thing as a blue chip in NFTs. The definition of blue chip is something that's like stable, consistent growth, like something you can trust. And in the NFT space, there really is no blue chip, because somebody can be at the top of the game one day, and the next thing you know, like random thing comes out, like a Black Swan event, then, you know, this whole project comes crumbling down. And we've seen it from many projects, right? Like in the past, Cool Cats was like blowing up, and then now it's like trying to fight for relevancy, right? And there's other projects as well that kind of were at the top, and then they kind of became less relevant over time because the space moves so quickly. I'm not gonna tell you what you should do, but for me personally, when I think about success, I personally wouldn't just put all my money into another person's hands and like roll the dice and gamble on that, because I know for myself that the surest way to be successful is really just a bet on myself, because I know myself really well. But if you want to take the gamble and you want to put your money in these projects where you don't know the founders, cool, you know, but understand that there's always risks to that, and there's no blue chip in NFTs. Like someone could be hot today and next thing you know, they're not tomorrow. So always be mindful of that. And it's okay to cut losses in some situations, and it's okay to hold if you really believe in it. It's really up to you. So that's just a little tip I have for you guys. So moving things into something more positive and new and fresh, we're gonna talk about Invisible Friends. Now, Invisible Friends, they recently announced a collaboration with KITH, and we haven't really seen what that looks like until today. This is pretty much what it looks like. It's basically an Invisible Friends wearing KITH streetwear clothes, and then there's actually a website that we can actually go on. Pretty simple. It's pretty much just a collaboration. They're going to do one of these KITH's Invisible Friends, and then we don't know what the other ones are going to look like, but they probably will look pretty good, because obviously if they're going to make one of ones, they're going to spend a lot of time and effort on it. And then from there, they're going to create a larger edition of the KITH Invisible Friends, where the mint price is going to be fixed at $1,000. This is really interesting because the price of ETH keeps going up and down, so it makes sense they would have to fix it at $1,000 and then convert it into ETH, because if they said like 0.2 for example, and then ETH goes like down the drain, then it's like, well, you know, it's not really worth anything. So probably going to see a lot of projects doing this moving forward. How big will this collection be? I think they're still going to see what supply and demand looks like. I think that's the purpose of doing the one-of-one Invisible Friends, to see, you know, do people like it? Do people want it? Do they want to see more? And I think that would determine this price. So it seems like these clothes are going to be evolving over time. I'm not sure how it's going to evolve, but because KITH is a clothing brand, I can see them making different clothes and hats and glasses or whatever, and then like upgrading your NFTs in some capacity. I mean, the art is pretty good. The brand it's a streetwear brand entering the NFT space, bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3, right? Like always. It's launching on May 18th and May 20th, so that's definitely coming up. And the thing I would pay attention to or think about is, what can this be in the future? So if you're thinking about buying it, understand that it's more of a lifestyle, like clothing kind of brand, where it's more about having strong art, not necessarily utility. The game mechanic of having clothes that you can upgrade your NFT, that's an interesting idea, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to create a lot of utility for the user, right? So at the end of the day, you're just buying something, a piece of art that's cool, that, you know, you can hang and you can flex on people and be part of the community. People can say like they value that a lot, and they value that emotional attachment to the art and the community. Totally fine, but you know, I wouldn't expect like a play to earn game or something like that. So if you like it, you know what you're getting yourself into. Think about like how much potential this has if you're trying to buy and invest or flip, because that's always something to think about. But you can also say that maybe they're going to integrate Invisible Friends and the KITH into the real life products, because I believe KITH does have like different types of stores, like clothing stores, like all over the world. They also have KITH Treats, where it's kind of like an ice cream store. I think they used to sell cereal here at one point. Oh yeah, they still do it. So like KITH cereal, I haven't been here myself, but it looks pretty cool. You know, this is actually a pretty cool ice cream store. So if they integrate like real life experiences into this, then it can be like a lot more of a lifestyle brand, right? And so that's something that's kind of interesting if you're interested in this type of niche. Now, in other news, Dapper Labs CEO teases that they're going to do an upcoming collaboration with Billboard. So Billboard seems like they are going to launch some NFTs. And if you don't know Billboard, they're one of the largest like publications when it comes to music. What we talked about in the last video is that this guy Julian over here is the CEO of Doodles, who is a recent CEO, and he used to work at Billboard and Billboard's parent company, and he has all this experience in sales and business development. I think a lot of people are speculating that is Doodles going to be collaborating with Billboard in some capacity? Who knows, right? But then we see a lot of Doodle people obviously going to leave comments and like hype this up. For me, just looking at it, I don't have a Doodle myself, but it's bullish that larger companies are entering the space. They're building in the space. They're getting like these executives who are very skilled in Web 2 kind of world and bringing them into Web 3 and to build more infrastructure and build more partnerships. That's bullish for the space overall. Now, the next project we're going to talk about is going to be 3D Karafuru. They just released their website recently. So if you go on 3d.karafuru.io, pretty much this is what it's going to look like. So it's actually a cool concept. I think if they rendered this in the highest quality, it would look amazing. But I feel like because you have to load it up on your web browser or your phone, they probably had to reduce the quality of the resolution, but that's okay. You pretty much get the idea. I mean, this is a very unique way to kind of explain their landing page. So I definitely give them props to that. So you see the characters over here, so you kind of know what you're getting. You supply, they got the Karafuru themes, they got the Hypebeast clothes, Atmos, collaboration, and they got more things like 3D avatars, which obviously is the main centerpiece. Metaverse Ready. Metaverse Ready is interesting because, meaning they bought all this land in the metaverse like Sandbox, World Wide Web, and Apeland. So I'm guessing that they would have to take these assets and then redo them for each specific land, right? So World Wide Web, for example, is like 2D pixel. So you would have to create 2D pixels of these 3D avatars. Or Sandbox is VX, right? I mean, if they're willing to like create all these assets and give it to their holders for free or for something, or maybe a cheap mint, I'm not sure. That would be interesting, but it definitely is a lot of work to create all these assets. Moving forward, we haven't seen any metaverse plays like really played out, whether it's like Sandbox, Decentraland, World Wide Web, like nothing really has caught fire yet. You know, I'm interested to see in the future, like, is it going to catch fire or not? I'm not just speaking on Karafuru, but like literally every project that promises like VX and like all these things, nobody has quite used these models in these worlds yet. So curious to see how that's going to play out. Collab on merchandise, I guess you're going to get real life clothes for buying this NFT, which is cool, right? So if it's exclusive, like collector's editions and, you know, like people who like collect sneakers and like rare clothes, then I can see that. Toys and collectibles, which is an obvious play because Karafuru is partnered with like Museum of Toys, right? So like can see this definitely working out. And honestly, if toys are pretty cool, I'll probably get a couple and put it in the back over there. Interesting stuff. I think the mint is coming real soon. I mean, the market right now is like not super hot for a mint, right? A lot of mints aren't doing that well, just like market overall. So I'm curious to see when they're going to mint and how they're going to play it out, especially during this time. But I want to give you guys a little update on what's going on there. So that said, that is everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow me on Twitter, join the Parallax Discord, where we're going to be talking about our new NFT coming up. And I will see you guys in the next one.